All right. Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this. Somebody else said good evening. Thank you. Was that Councillor Mantle? Good evening, Ian. Welcome to this extraordinary cabinet meeting. I'd like to welcome members and officers, along with members of the public present with us this evening in the council chamber, and everyone who's taken the time to watch via our YouTube channel. Before we begin, I'd like to invite the committee and scrutiny officer to explain how proceedings at the committee meeting will work. And can I ask everyone that's joining us via Zoom to make sure that they are muted when they are not speaking, please? Thank you. So over to Louis.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to call out some names on our Zoom call just to make sure they can hear us and we can hear them. Do we have Suzanne Ormsby?
Yes, you do. Good evening.
Thank you. Anthony Roach?
Yes, good evening.
Thank you. Claire Skeels?
Yes, good evening.
Thanks. And Nuranata Kativu?
Yes, good evening.
Thanks. If a member wishes to speak, they should If a member wishes to speak, they should use the speak button located on the microphone unit. The microphone will light up green and the chair will be alerted of your request to speak. When the chair invites you to speak, your microphone will be made live and will turn red, at which point you can speak. When requested to vote, voting will be via the yes, no, abstain buttons on your microphone unit. Details of how members voted will be shown on the screens around the room and the result will be visible on the YouTube stream. Are there any questions? No, I will now hand back to the chair.
Thank you very much. So first item for this evening is apologies for absence. I have apologies from Councillor Steve Jarvis. Are there any other apologies? No, there are not, because everybody else is here. Chair's announcements. In accordance with council policy, this meeting is being audio recorded as well as filmed. The audio recording will be available via the NHDC, or North Herts as it is now, council website, and the film recording via the North Herts Council YouTube channel. Members are reminded that this council has declared a council climate emergency. This is a serious decision and means that as this is an emergency, all of us, officers and members, have that in mind as we carry out our various roles and tasks for the benefit of our district. More details are included on the front sheet of the agenda. And finally, members are reminded to make declarations of interest before an item. The detailed reminder about this and speaking rights is set out under the chair's announcements on the agenda. And please may I remind members that following declarations, you must confirm any dispensations granted to you by the monitoring officer. I think, Jeanette, you've got something further to say on that.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And just to say that as monitoring officer, I can grant dispensations, and I have granted a general one to all district councillors because we do have interest in 5 areas or 5 potential sites where there's an intention to develop for residential use. So there's a general dispensation for that. And also in relation to county councillors, but I'll leave those to the individual county councillors and others to make those declarations.
Thank you very much. Judy.
I understand that I need to declare an interest in relation to land at Baldock on the basis that I am a county councillor, and that's what I'm so doing.
Thank you very much. And Keith.
Yeah, and exactly the same with me as a county councillor. Interest in the county council land at Baldock.
Thank you. And Councillor Mantle.
Yeah. Thank you. I have declared an interest as the council's nominee on the Heritage Foundation for two of the major sites, and a couple of little ones are from the Heritage Foundation.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I believe that Jeanette has granted dispensations for all of those members. Okay, so moving onwards. Item 3, public participation. I've been notified that we have no public participation this evening. Which takes us on to item 4, which is the North Herts Local Plan 2011 to 2031. I'm going to pass over to Ruth Brown to present.
Thank you, Chair. So tonight, Cabinet is being asked to recommend the local plan to full council for adoption. I feel like this is quite a momentous occasion since we've been waiting for over 5 years for this moment, and here we finally are. So I just wanted to make a few points, most of which I think my Cabinet colleagues already know, but I will just make some introductions. So this local plan was sent for examination in June 2017, and Again, the cabinet approved main mods to go to examination in December 2018. Both of those dates were prior to this administration. So this was the plan of the previous administration. It's gone through several rounds of public consultations and hearings over a period of 4 years. So it's been extensively scrutinised. And there was also an extraordinary council in October 2020 to have a look at the Greenbelt allocations in relation to the reduction of housing in the housing need. I think at that meeting, there was a hope that we might be able to save some Greenbelt. However, that vote was lost. But in fact, the inspector did then go on to reduce the numbers. So they've been reduced from 13,800 to 11,500, although that wasn't as much as some of the members had hoped for. So the inspector's report keeps all the Greenbelt sites that were originally allocated, and justifies this because they're sustainable Greenbelt locations, and there is a significant area being allocated to Greenbelt around some villages. Now, it's not necessarily in compensation, but there is significantly more Greenbelt in the local plan than before. So we're losing around 900 hectares and gaining around 4,000, but I understand it's not in the same place. I do accept that point. The government is requiring all local authorities to have an adopted local plan by December 23. This plan's not perfect, but we don't have another one. And adopting this local plan gives us significantly more control over the development in our area, and specifically in relation to design, standards, sustainability, and affordable housing. So I'd just like to make the point about affordable housing that for over 25 units, it's 40% in the local plan, whereas the government minimum is only 10%. So it enables us to be quite robust with developers over those standards. And it also protects areas outside of the local plan that are not sustainable from development potentially. So it helps protect those areas. We're not just being asked about the local plan to recommend that for adoption. We're also being asked to approve the updated local development scheme, and that notably includes an early review. So the review should start, not finish, but start by December 23. And adopting the plan will enable us to put alongside it supplementary planning documents to update things, because obviously this has been a development since 2012, so it's even longer than that. So it's been a long time in development. So it's important that we update some of the policies, and those are in draft already. In fact, the developer contributions SPD is already out for public consultation. So I would just like to recommend to cabinet colleagues that we recommend to full council 2.1 to 2.5, which is to adopt the local plan, to approve the local development scheme. There's a bit about delegated authority in there and the main mods. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ruth or for officers on this? Yes, Ian.
Just I mean, a couple of well, actually probably 3 questions, I think. Just for the record, if the cabinet were to choose to refuse to recommend this evening, does it still go to full council, but with a cabinet recommendation to reject, or what? Just to understand the process. Not so I'm suggesting I'm going to be voting that way, but because I obviously listened to the debate, but just to understand what the cabinet's powers are in relation to that this evening. You mentioned, Ruth, in relation to the what I think is probably 8.7 on page 9 of the paper. Are you asking us to commit to that we would just begin to review the review of the whole plan by sort of this time, 12 months time, because that does give me a little cause for concern. I mean, I would much prefer to see it actually reviewed by this time next year, and it feels quite an open-ended commitment that we'll possibly just about start a review, because by 12 months time. And then the final thing, and obviously I know some colleagues will be aware, there's clearly some interest and discussions around extending the Chilterns area of outstanding natural beauty to potentially, I mean, certainly I know at least one MP would like to see it sort of move to the borders of Hitchin. What would be the impact of that decision if the next year that there was a proposal to extend those boundaries? How would that impact upon the local plan and the policies within that, if that was to be the case? In a sense, it's a kind of a moot point at the moment, but it would be good to understand that in the round.
Thank you, Councillor Albert. So I'll take the second one first. I'm just trying to remember what you said. Oh, that was about the review. Yes. So we were required to start the review by December 23. We can start earlier if we wish. But I think it's important to recognise that it's quite a big undertaking. So it needs a proper thorough review. My understanding around the Chilterns area is that would form part of the update to the plan in terms of the review if that were to come forward, but I will allow officers to expand in more detail on that. And regarding process, I think I will ask Jeanette regarding what happens if we were to refuse to recommend it to council.
Well, it's fair to say I wasn't expecting that question, Councillor Albert. It's probably also fair to say that we'd have to take a view on that. Obviously, we've got the extraordinary council meeting listed. You've already said the legal basis of the recommendation to adopt a plan, the deadlines. Yes, I think it might be something we'd have to take outside of this meeting. I suppose potentially, if we didn't take it forward, we'd be subject to potential judicial review by interested developers and so forth. So yeah. But not one I want to go into too much detail at this stage. But yes, we'd have to consider it.
Right. Thank you very much. Always asking the tough questions. Brilliant. Thanks, Ian. Have we got somebody? Did you want to come back, Ruth?
Well, I just wondered if Nigel wanted to comment on the Chilterns area. That's all,
okay.
In more detail.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can if you like. As you're aware, Councillor Albert, the review of the AONB is at an early stage at the moment, and obviously got a number of steps to go through. I think in relation to the plan, the key point is that the AONB is amended through an entirely different process, so it can change outside of the local plan cycle. And there are both national policies and policies in our plan that apply to the AONB, so they would apply to the extent of the AONB at any given point in time. So if during the course of this plan the AONB gets bigger, then the policies apply to that larger area. So things can change outside the plan. Same with things like conservation areas. We can review and update those outside the plan, but you're not limited to only applying those policies to the situation now. You can amend in line with that as you go forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Do I have any further questions or comments on the local plan and the recommendations before us? Yes.
Well, I don't know whether we've actually sort of formally proposed it, but I'm happy if it hasn't been.
We haven't. I was about to do that once I knew that there were no further questions.
Well, you were opening the debate up now, so the
yes.
So I'm happy to recommend and propose the recommendations. But perhaps I should leave it to Ruth to do. I
was going to invite Ruth to propose, but if you're desperate to propose, I'm sure she'll. No, I think you'll graciously yield, and
absolutely.
I think Ruth might propose.
I think I sort of have proposed, but maybe not formally. So yes, I propose we accept the recommendation to take this to full council.
Thank you. And would Councillor Albert like to second?
Yes, I would like to, and I think just really to say three things. First of all, I think thanks to all the obviously the executive members, but obviously the officers for all the work that's been done over years. And it has been a huge sort of effort, and I think I certainly would like to sort of extend my personal thanks, and I'm sure obviously colleagues will as well, to for that work. It's been a huge effort just to get to this stage and all the hearings and so on, and so my thanks for that. I think the second thing is to say is that paragraph, I think 10.1, especially bearing in mind where all councils are left financially at the moment. The financial implications of well, obviously the financial implications of not carrying the plan forward, but the financial implications of what we have had to spend on that is significant. And we would to think, whilst I'm not saying that the work has been nugatory or in any other way, but when you look at spending £1.5 million on this over a long period of time, and our services are really struggling, and we're having to look for savings, efficiencies, and so on. It's not a helpful process, and I know Councillor Mantle has commented upon previously. But I think the third thing is perhaps to say in conclusion is I think the points for me and the risk implications in paragraphs 11.3, 11.4 and 11.5, I think are really powerful about if this council and obviously this cabinet, but obviously this council didn't take forward the local plan at this stage, I think are for me, whatever else is there, I think outweigh the kind of other points. And and I think we'd all have our issues and concerns about some of the development areas, some of the infrastructure proposals and so on. And yes, and I'm really keen that we do get on and do that review at the earliest possible stage. And I would like us to see it starting well before the end of next year. That would be my my I think want and desire. But I think I'm very happy to to second that and second these sort of recommendations in order that we can take them to a debate at full council next week. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Judy.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to ask a possibly slightly unorthodox question. But Ruth has already made the point that this was not originally our plan, and for many decades it was not our plan. And yet a great deal of work was still being done on it for those decades by our officers and the then administration. And I'm glad to see David Levitt here this evening, who I know did a huge amount of work on it himself, even as we might disagree with the outcomes. And the unorthodoxy of my question is whether it would be out of order to ask him, let's talk about him as if he's not here, if he has anything he wants to say, or whether he's here merely to observe what we're getting up to.
David, I think you can speak for yourself.
Thank you, and thank you, Judy. Yes, I'm here to observe tonight, but as Judy's pointed out, I've been involved in this since it started in, well, pre-2012. I think it was 2011 I first got involved with it and seen it all the way through. I think I said right at the very first meeting we had, this plan isn't perfect. No plan is perfect. It's a work in progress. It's a live document. It's something that's going to change all the time. But I think the important thing to say is that we've seen through the planning committees the problems of not having a local plan with some of the developments have gone through, and we haven't got what we wanted from it. Inspectors' decisions where they've overturned planning committee. I just sort of like to reiterate, it is really, really important to have this. Yes, it's not perfect. It never will be. It will always change. But at least we've got something to base it on. But thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, the officers who've worked on this have done a tremendous amount of work. Louise, Ian, and Nigel in particular, who've been there all the way through, but all the others. And those who went through all the hearings, the initial stages, wouldn't see this, but we used to start before, quite early in the morning. I think 8 o'clock most mornings we were there, and at times we were there. Officers were there till 10, 11 o'clock at night working on this. I've had emails sort of 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning from certain officers as well on it. So just really must say thank you to all those officers for all the extra hard work they put in on that.
Thank you very much. I think that it would be appropriate if we could minute that thanks, because this has been such an enormous piece of work that our officers have carried out over an unusually long period of time, and it's been through a very difficult journey. But I think it would also probably be appropriate for us to express thanks to those in the previous administration who assisted in get going and were there and put those hours and that time in as well, because it is no mean feat applying the appropriate levels of scrutiny, dealing with residents and supporting everybody through a process as complex as this. So thank you very much, everyone that's got us to where we are now. And we can look at things going forwards. So I'm not seeing anybody else indicating that they wish to speak. I've had the recommendations proposed and seconded. So I think we can move to the vote, please.
Chair, that's carried unanimously.
Thank you very much. All right, and item number 5 is the Thurfield Heath Site of Special Scientific Interest, or SSSI. I think, Ruth, you're going to present on that one as well.
Thank you, Chair. So the reason this is coming forward today is because we were asked by Natural England to produce a mitigation strategy for Thurfield Heath before we adopt the local plan. The increasing amount of development in the area around Thurfield Heath, so the zone of influence as it's called, puts extra pressure, increased footfall on that area. And so it was seen as important to have a mitigation strategy. That actually is already happening because much of the allocated sites within Royston are already being developed or out, but there are more to come. So this is quite important. It has been developed in consultation with Natural England, and I just wanted to draw colleagues' attention to the fact there is a supplementary document with their additional comments, and I specifically asked to have that published alongside so that it's all open and transparent. So there are actually now 2 recommendations, 2.1, so that subject to the approval of the local plan, that we approve this strategy. And then there's a second point, 2.2, which is in the addendum, which is that delegated authority is granted to Service Director Regulatory in consultation with Executive Member for Planning and Transport and Executive Member for Environment and Leisure to incorporate minor changes requested by Natural England. I don't know that there's much else to say on this. I'm happy to take questions if anybody wants to ask me them, and I'm sure if they're too technical for me, Nigel can answer them. So I would like to propose that we accept the recommendations 2.1 and 2.2.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Do I have any questions, comments, or debate on this item? No. I'm seeing nobody indicate. In that case, can I have a seconder, please? Yeah.
Happy to second.
Thank you, Ian. Okay, and can we move to the vote, please?
Chair, that's carried unanimously.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And that brings us to an end of this evening's business. The next meeting of Cabinet is an ordinary meeting, again, finally, on the 13th of December. Thank you very much, everyone. I hope there's such a thing as an ordinary meeting. We've had too many extraordinary meetings for my liking recently, but thank you very much, everyone. I will see you all next week, if not before. Thank you.